I wasn't going to really do a whole rollout. Of course, I watched the news. Now, I posted just earlier that whole thing that what we talked about on the hurricane coming and all. I didn't read all of my previous posts, but I remember that I talked about this is the year. You know, right now I'm checking. I didn't realize it was like top news on Drudge and Fox and CNN. You know, a while ago, I talked about how there are various ways God works, and I specifically was telling somebody that when you walk through a land, as a matter of fact, recently, I think I was telling Levi, I said, when you walk through a land, it connects, meaning in Scripture you have prophets, apostles, evangelists, pastors, teachers. If you go to the story of Noah, which was obviously it was a flood, a judgment, a flood. And in Scripture we read that Noah was a preacher of righteousness, but yet God had showed him judgment was coming. And in the story, they kind of mocked Noah. And it said they did it until the flood came and took them all away. Jesus teaches that and mentions it in the Gospels. That's how the day of the Lord will come. Now, I just found it interesting because the latest update on the hurricane, the tropical storm as of now, but more than likely a hurricane, most of the damage they say is going to come from severe flooding. And they also said a major hurricane has not hit the Texas coast since 2008. I remember that one, and really it was not much at all. And I prayed for those to pass. And look, I told you, I mentioned on the other video, there was one a few years ago, and the same type of thing. You know, in Scripture, we are children of God. We are called the sons of God. And they said about Jesus, even the winds and the sea obey him. This could even be a teaching for a lot of my preacher friends. But the latest release was a joint statement from Nueces County, Lloyd Neal, Joe McComb. Residents Winter Texans tours along Texas Highway 361 on Padre Island from Port Aransas to Corpus Christi are advised that a 5 to 7 foot storm surge from Port Aransas to Corpus Christi. Let me tell you, I have never walked in my life from Port Aransas to Corpus Christi until 2 days ago. Not planning it, but I was saying that there are events that happen. And I was saying basically to some friends just this past week, you know, when I got back from some of my trips up New York, and then when I'd get back, one time I was watching the news with a friend of mine, Henry, and it was the storm came in, a Sandy or whatever, and I talked about the boardwalk. They rebuilt the boardwalk. All of this is to say that there are signs. What about the boardwalk? They rebuilt the boardwalk after Sandy. Now, one year I left New Jersey. All of these, God uses all of us. And so I just was retelling that because one of my other friends said, oh, Henry was saying whenever John gets back from walking through an area that there seems to be a judgment. And Henry's knowledgeable in Scripture. But it's not just me. You know, prophets, I'm teaching on Kings, and I just told the story, I don't know if I posted it yet, but the prophet Ahijah takes his coat off, and he rips it into 12 pieces. That's a strange event, and he gives 10 pieces to Jeroboam. I think I posted that already, but that's in Kings coming up. And then I was talking about the prophet Agabus. That I didn't post yet, which is Acts 21. The prophet Agabus says, my dog's crying, so I got to walk outside. The prophet Agabus did some strange things. He grabbed Paul's belt, said the man that holds this is going to be bound, owns this is going to be bound and go to Jerusalem. So what I want to do now, I'm not sure how many I'll make. Look, when the storm does come in, I'm going to videotape as much as I can. I'm staying. I think most of my family might go inland because Becky's ranch is inland. But I'm going to, look, we used to stay for fire department stays for hurricanes. We used to prepare for those. So this is looking to be a major event. Like I said, what's interesting to me is the latest warning was right on that highway, all the way from Aransas Pass to Corpus Christi. And it's just, like I mentioned, I found that significant because sometimes things happen and you don't even know why they happen. And in Scripture, if I was going to do a whole teaching on all of the judgments that were economic judgments upon a society, there's a whole teaching on that. But let me just post this one. God bless everybody.